This is From Now On. I'm Lisa Phillips. From Now On is a podcast that goes beyond the headlines to offer intimate stories of survival and life after trauma. Each week, I'll be sharing my own survival story while bringing other survivors and experts to help recognize red flags, educate on ways to advocate for yourself, and hold abusive power accountable. From now on, we educate, we prepare, we heal, we empower. Just a heads up, this episode contains discussions of grooming and manipulation, and some listeners may find it upsetting. We also encourage listeners to prepare themselves emotionally before listening. Hello, I'm Lisa Phillips, and I'm deeply thankful you've chosen to join me today on this first episode of From Now On. You might recognize my name from documentaries or articles linked to my abuser and his associates. But before we delve into that, I want to share a bit about who I am. I'm a former international fashion model turned talent scout, a proud boy mom, and a lover of nature and dolphins. Nestled by the sea in the South Bay of Los Angeles, I thrive on adventure, exploring diverse cultures and traveling the world with my boys. Dogs are my passion, and nothing beats a hike with my faithful companions. But beyond these joys, I am a survivor. I am a survivor of Jeffrey Epstein and others involved in his web of co-conspirators. So why are we here today? This podcast is close to my heart because for so long, I've yearned to speak out and share my truth. I've hesitated knowing the scrutiny and doubt women often face when they speak out about their abuse. Yet, since 2019, I found solace in a community of survivor sisters who've given me the strength to be here today. Throughout this season, I'll be sharing my story and inviting other survivors to do the same, because I believe when you share your story, you create a ripple effect of healing and transformation. This is our story now, survivor to survivor. This podcast is a sanctuary, a place free from judgment, where survivors can uplift and empower one another. My journey through modeling and acting has been bittersweet. And as I transitioned to the business side, my healing journey became intertwined with a passion for educating others about the industry. This is why I've invited you to join me on From Now On, to educate, to prepare, to heal, and to empower through the stories we will share. It's taken immense courage to reach this point. I faced dark moments, questioning myself and my path, but each time I found a fierce determination within me, a courage that says, yes, I will speak my truth. I will do this because it matters, my voice matters, and because it helps others. Today, I'm not here for sensationalism. I'm here to raise awareness, to help others recognize warning signs, trust their instincts, and understand coercive control, to prevent abuse within power dynamics and foster a safer world. My healing journey has been layered. I've leaned on therapy, meditation, immersed myself in podcasts, read a lot of books on trauma, sought solace in nature, and cherished time with loved ones. For me, EMDR therapy was transformative, igniting a fire within me that was bolstered by connecting with other survivors. It's within this community that true empowerment lies. From now on, we stand united, believing, supporting, and empowering survivors. We're shifting the dialogue away from the abusers and centering it on those who've lived through the darkness. Before we meet our guest, I want to leave a message for those watching or listening, a message for anyone currently in an abusive power dynamic or who has never shared their story. You are not alone. You deserve healing. It's not your fault. You are innocent. You have my unwavering support. Welcome to From Now On. Together, let's rewrite the narrative. Today's guest started her journey into the world of modeling at 19, working locally in South Florida. After years of honing her skills, gaining confidence, and building her portfolio, she is an international model represented by Ford Models. I'm excited today to welcome Krystal Orozco to From Now On. Welcome, Krystal.
Lisa, thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to have
I'm
you here.
so excited.
Yeah, you
So
have this
excited for
like
this.
beautiful aura about you.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So let's go back a little bit and tell me, like, when you first started thinking about modeling, how old were you and what were your big goals at the time?
I mean, I first started to get into it. I mean, as a kid, like I wanted to be something and I wanted to do something. I remember crying to my parents that I wanted to be a gymnast. I wanted to do ballet. I wanted to do something creative and feminine and beautiful. And I remember beating myself up, and my little brother still talk about it. Just, I was too tall to be a gymnast. I was too tall to be a ballerina. And it was too late for me as well. I was like wanting to find myself in my teenage years. And I remember just like watching TV, like browsing through the internet and just being so in awe at these beautiful models. And like in a way that was just inspiring. Like I wanted to do that. I wanted to be that woman. I wanted to embrace like that side of me. And I knew that I could do it. I sat my parents down like one night on the dinner table, and I remember this. They probably don't, but I was like 15, and I told them I want to model. Like
Wow.
I would love to do this. And their immediate answer was no, like never, not happening. Focus on school. And that was at 15. But later on, like as I grew my independence after graduating high school and just kind of, doing things on my own accord, that was when I started to really get into it. I did the research all on my own, and I didn't even tell my parents for the longest time, just because I understood as parents why they were apprehensive.
Of course.
For so many reasons that we're going to dive deep into today. But I knew that given the opportunity, if I had the chance, that it was worth it. But I knew I had to put myself out there. And so I really started researching within South Florida. I'm born and raised in West Palm Beach.
Okay.
And the closest model market from my town is Miami. And so probably around like 19, 20 years old is when I started to just go down to Miami. I would research the agencies online. I would find the addresses, see when their open calls were, and I would just go.
Oh, wow. Did your parents know at that time? Or you're just trying to see if you could get signed before telling them?
Yes. I did tell them like briefly, but it wasn't like a big deal in a way of like, if I was rejected, I was going to go home and cry. It was more so like, oh, I have the opportunity. Why not? I would go with friends. Confident. Yeah, just walk in. I was rejected probably every
it
single
happens to
time.
a lot in the beginning.
Yeah, just knocking on the doors at an agency with like a little headshot that I printed myself. Like, the chances of that working out are slim to none, but it's worth it. And I knew that putting myself out there was worth it. And
learn about rejection.
Exactly. And so I was very bold with it from a young age. And around that time in Miami, I started to get my foot in the door. And I shared this story when I got signed to Ford this past year, because I used to volunteer backstage at like runway shows. And so there was one swim week, I think it was 2016. I was volunteering backstage, just doing like production assistant, helping the models get dressed. And I saw like a couple of models, which is beautiful, stunning, gorgeous, gorgeous girls. And so many of them had like little Ford like handbags. And I remember thinking like, oh my God, like I love the backstage aspect of creative design and fashion and modeling, but I wanted to do that. I wanted to be
Was
on the
Ford
runway.
the big dream? Was that the agency that you always thought you wanted to be with?
It was one of them.
One of them, right.
And so when I got signed to Ford now in 2024, years later, like it hit me. I'm like, oh my God, like it happened.
Full circle.
Yeah, it came full circle.
Yeah.
But that's basically how I got started. And through social media as well helped so much for me to get the attention of my first mother agency.
So you're tagging agencies and...
I think I would just DM them, honestly.
Oh, really? DM? Like, you were bold. Good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It works.
From the beginning, it was just, I posted my photos, would have photo shoots with friends, or just reach out to photographers in the area. And I looked for models that were similar to me.
Right. Oh, you're so smart.
Yeah.
That's the best thing to do. So how did it all come about that you got signed to your first agency?
I signed to my first agency with my first mother agency.
Okay. So can you explain, to our listeners who probably don't know how you would get started as a model? Like, what are the steps?
Yeah.
Like the
So
mother agency, explain that.
in modeling, it's
Yeah.
not really black and white.
Mhm.
It's so different for everyone.
Mhm.
There are some girls that sign to a mother agency and kind of stay with them and develop. And you have so many things that you need to work on. Your mother agency is like that light that will guide you.
Right.
They tell you, you know, maybe you need to switch up your hair or like just anything about your
Right.
look. They really guide you.
So your mother agency basically is the one who scouts you, develops you, and
Yes,
gets you ready
yes.
to present you to agencies.
To present you to
Yeah, just want to
agencies.
explain that.
Yes, exactly. So
I mean, that's what I did.
the-
I did that for 14 years. So
Mhm.
I just want the listeners to understand like the process.
Yes. So they help you in development and they basically manage your career internationally. And so they present you to the agencies.
Mhm.
And so I signed with my first mother agency. I believe it was 2019.
And how old were you then?
At that time, I was
Teenager still?
20.
Oh, you're 20. Okay.
19,
Okay.
19, 20 years
Mhm.
old. Yeah. At that time.
Perfect age to
Mhm.
start. Yeah.
I felt a little late just because I knew a lot of the girls in the industry start when they're 16, 17
Yeah, they
years
do.
old.
The ones who live locally, yes.
The ones that live
Yeah.
locally. Yeah.
Mhm. Well, that's exciting. So you signed to your first agency, and your mother agent helped you
To get signed.
place
Yes.
you,
So
yeah.
I got signed to Select Model Management this is a couple years later.
Ooh,
So
my agency.
yeah. It took me a while. I had a
Mhm.
lot of development that I needed to do, a lot of confidence that I needed to build within myself.
Can you
Although I was
explain
a little
what's
bit
development?
bold. So development in itself is just building yourself up as a model.
Mhm.
You go from like just a pretty girl to a model
Mhm.
because there's pretty beautiful
transition.
women. Yes. There's beautiful women everywhere, but a model is a model. And that's a skill that you do need to learn. And I had to learn that really is what it is. I had to learn how to pose in front of the camera. I had to learn how to feel comfortable in my own skin, how to wear clothing and present myself well. And a
Be
lot
professional.
of it is, yes, a lot of it is the business aspect of it as well. Like I had to learn how to present myself to clients in a professional way. I had to learn how to present myself to agents, you know, in a way where I come off that I take my job seriously and it's not just prancing around in front of the camera.
A lot of people don't realize
And
that.
so
It's
there's
not
a
just looking
lot.
cute,
No,
right?
no, no,
It's
no.
it's
That's
taking it
part of
seriously.
it. Yeah. And there was some ups and downs, you know, it's not easy. There's a lot of situations that I was in where maybe I didn't make the right decision, but it was all part of the learning process. And so
Right,
that is
okay.
a part of development as well. And it's really just putting yourself out there.
Right.
Like you have to go to those test shoots. You have to build your portfolio.
Yeah. Well, building
And-
with test shoots with photographers that are reputable and
Exactly.
trustworthy
Yeah.
that
Mhm.
agencies work with.
It's a big sacrifice and a risk because you do one shoot and it's not guaranteed that they'll come out well. I think I probably invested $2,000, $3,000, $4,000
Easily.
before actually having a book that was up to par for
Good
the
enough
agencies.
to put on the website, good enough for
Yeah.
clients to start
All
booking
of
you.
that. It takes a lot to develop yourself as a model. A lot of
Yeah.
money, time, every resource. It's so much.
So you're saying
And
you
so-
have to have someone like a mother agent, manager, or agent, photographer that you trust along the way to help build your career.
Definitely. There's a lot of trust because they are that person who is guiding you. They are that voice of reason. And when
they're
I
the
first
ones that are
started,
fulfilling your dream.
they are.
So it's like a
Yeah.
big deal.
It is. Yeah, it's a huge deal because when you go into it, like I had an idea and I had done my research, but you don't know. There's so much that you're not aware of when you start as such a young model, and especially because everyone's situation is different. I had other model friends who, you know, walked into Wilhelmina Models and got signed that same day and just took off. And then there are people like me who I knocked on the doors of agencies for years, and you
most
never
successful
got
models take that route too. You know
Yeah,
that
you
it's
never
not just
get a
everyone just gets
response.
signed like that.
It's so many years of rejection, and so it's not black and white. And it's difficult because you don't really know who to trust, and you don't know if it's you don't know if maybe it's the market that's not meant for you. There's so many variables to it. And so the mother agent is the person that is supposed to guide you.
So
in
how
that
do you
sense.
figure out who to trust? Do you ask around other models?
Yeah. I mean, it's a vetting process for sure. Like you have to go through the ups and downs with certain people. Like you don't know until until you work with someone and you see how they operate. That is when you know whether or not, you can trust them. Like, it's not something that's really given.
It's
It's
important.
built from the bottom up. And
Yeah, you
so
actually don't
see
know
that.
from the start.
You don't know from the start.
So can you talk about maybe like what are some red flags with managers or clients, photographers, just people who you meet on your journey?
There's a lot of scams out there, but just really going through the process of vetting out the people that you're working with and knowing that they are like trusted professionals. It takes time.
Have you had any experiences where you've been in a situation where like, I'm not so sure about this, I feel really uncomfortable?
For me, it's just the way that someone presents themselves to you. I think when you're a beautiful girl in the industry, you're going to have so many eyes on you. Everyone wants to talk to you. Everyone wants to be your friend and kind of be around you. And when I first started, I think it's easy for it to get to your head because you're so flattered and you've never had that much attention on you. Then you become a model and it's like, wow, everyone wants to, you know, rub shoulders with you. And it's great, but it's dangerous because it puts you in a really vulnerable position. And so
Like
when I
not
first
knowing
started,
who to trust?
not knowing who to
Okay.
trust. Yeah. Or not knowing someone's intentions.
Intentions, not, okay, that's a good one.
Not knowing someone's intentions. And so I would just say is to always listen to your sixth sense. You know, they say your gut is almost like your second brain. That intuition will always guide you. And when you feel uncomfortable in any kind of way, that there is enough for you to know that maybe this isn't the safest place for me.
Right.
But it's something that you don't experience until you're in that position.
Right. And then sometimes you're just like
Yeah.
frozen and don't know what to do.
Yeah. And sometimes it is just the trial and error of putting yourself out there, seeing how the situation is with the photographer, and then telling yourself, okay, I feel this way. My feelings are valid and I know that this is not for me. And you don't have to do so in like an overly emotional way.
Right.
Just kind of deciding, okay, you know, this is not what I signed up for. And I remember right before I signed to my first agency, I did a job with a very known celebrity where it was a photo shoot where he was the center of attention and there was models to be posing around him. So I was excited and I trusted because he's such a known celebrity. And so I felt like, okay, I'm going to be in the right hands. I'm going to be comfortable and everything is going to be professional. He's such a celebrity, you know, he's an A-lister. And arriving to the shoot, what happened is that I mean, there was some kind of miscommunication, but I wasn't aware. And I know a couple other models were not aware either, but it was actually supposed to be a topless shoot.
Oh, wow. And they didn't tell you?
They didn't tell us.
And that was through a model agency?
No, it was not. That
Yeah,
was
it was
freelance.
a freelance. That's an example of when you're a freelance. A lot of times they don't tell you.
Those are the dangers of freelance. That's the dangers of freelance modeling.
So you show up on set and it's not what they said it was going to be.
It's not what you said it was going to be. And now you're in an uncomfortable position because if you leave, now you're not going to be paid.
Yeah. And then it's, you
and
feel
then
embarrassed.
If you continue, it's like you're vulnerable. You're exposing yourself and it's not something that you were prepared for. And so I believe I was able to leave and they had asked us to sign a consent form and I did not. I refused. And
that
so
was smart.
but from that situation, trial and error, I was able to now know, okay, now before putting myself in that position, I know the right questions to ask and I just know who to trust. And so from then on, I don't believe I continued the relationship or ever worked with that production company and the people that were directing that shoot again.
Yeah, that's why it's important just to stand up for yourself.
It is.
In that moment, instead of just going through with it.
Yeah.
Then you've signed a contract and that they can do anything with those pictures.
They can do anything with it. And it's not something that you agree to. And so with that experience, that was one of the first times that I truly felt just taken advantage of. And it is something that I regret. And it was something that I think 20-year-old me did and didn't really think too much into it.
Right.
And so those are the dangers of saying yes to any opportunity that comes your way when you're just starting out in modeling. It's like you want to put yourself out there.
Of course.
You really want to try new things and be open and be creative, but there is a very fine line. And you only learn that as you continue to grow as a model. And as you continue to grow in your confidence to be able to say, hey, I'm not comfortable doing this.
Yeah.
And it's a non-negotiable.
Good.
It takes a long time to get to that point because when you're so young and you're starting out, you want to succeed and you almost like you're operating from a people pleaser kind of
Right.
mentality as a model. Like you are not that you're desperate, but you want the opportunities to come your way.
It's
And
so
so
funny
it
you
puts
say
you in a
that.
sticky situation of
Yeah.
like, I want to stand firm in my boundaries, but I also don't want to disappoint. And I don't want to be that girl on set that's causing problems. I don't want to be problematic.
Yeah, it's a really good point that you brought up, because there are certain situations, because I was a model too for a long time. And it's like, there are certain situations you go and you show up on set and things aren't the way that you expect it. And then you have that power to say, you know, I'm not doing this, and you walk off. But there are some jobs that you go to that are big jobs, big magazines, or a big photographer, and you kind of stay quiet and you do something uncomfortable because they are a big photographer, big job. You're going to disappoint your agent, your manager, you know?
Yeah. And as
so,
I've grown as a model, but also a woman, I'm learning for myself that it is okay to speak up when you're uncomfortable, that you're not a burden for sharing your truth.
No, they'll just book somebody else.
Exactly. Someone else that wants to do the job. And that's okay. It's okay to not fit in every single mold. It's okay as a model. If I don't want to do a certain job that just is not a look that I want to represent myself as, that is okay. And it takes a long time to get there. And I've run into the situation with past agents as well, where I think sometimes in the industry, they kind of expect models to just be so open and happy to book any job, just any and anything. And I used to feel that way too, where it's like, I should be grateful that I'm getting this job, that I'm getting this work. And that's how I felt that day of the shoot with that celebrity, is just, wow, what an opportunity. Like I am grateful. I'm grateful to be here and to have this chance to work with these amazing people. But that doesn't mean that I have to abandon myself.
Well, have you ever been in an uncomfortable situation where you felt like you couldn't get out of? That was harder. Yeah.
Yes, I have. And it's difficult to talk about because when there's any kind of abuse, mistreatment, harassment, it's usually from people that are close to you.
That you trust.
It's someone that you know, it's someone that you trust, it's someone that you've worked with. And I have had several situations where someone who I worked with and was really vulnerable with, someone who knew me, was simultaneously trying to abuse me. And
did you know in the beginning? Did you know, or did you while it was happening, or you figured it out later?
I figured it out later, but the red flags were always there. And that feeling deep in my intuition was always there from the beginning. And it's something that I didn't know at that time of just being so young, 19 years old. You're just coming into your adulthood.
Yeah, you're
such
had those
a baby
experiences
adult.
yet.
Yeah, it takes time to really trust yourself. And that's what I lacked in the beginning, is that trust in myself. And in my situation, I found myself in a position where it was someone that I cared about deeply, and someone who was close to me, who was trying his hardest to get on my good side and to get me alone. And yeah, it's difficult to talk about. It really is. And it's something that I smashed down for a very long time because I couldn't believe it. I was still in such
Denial stage.
because this is someone who I once held in such high regard. I never thought this person would ever do that to me.
Yeah, the betrayal.
I never thought that I was going to be put in that position. And you watch so many shows and movies about that kind of stuff, but you don't think it will happen to you. You don't think as a model that it's a possibility. And it is. And you don't think that it's someone close to you. You think, oh, that happens in different towns. Or, I was in South Florida, and you think, oh, that's normal for LA.
Yeah.
That's like an LA thing. And no, it can happen.
LA thing.
Yeah. It can happen to you in your hometown.
Oh, there's predators everywhere.
Everywhere.
The smallest towns, big cities, everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. And they disguise themselves very well. And so you don't know until it's almost too late, until it's right in your face.
Well, yeah, you built your trust up.
Yeah. And then you're faced with this. You're faced with just the reality of, okay, now I know that this person is a manipulator. And I know that they are predatorial, but what happened to that sweet, genuine person who I've grown to know for so long? Like,
Well, they probably didn't exist.
yeah.
I mean, it was a facade.
And that's the brutal awakening of it all.
That's hard. Yeah.
It's always someone that you know and someone that you trust. So it took me a long time to realize that as well, because you don't want to believe it.
No, well, that's the power dynamic. They're helping you to advance your career, you know, and be that trusted person that I think you were, you know, sharing a lot with, and you were going through a really hard time, right?
I was.
With your family.
I was, yeah. I don't want to share too much, but throughout that time, it was just a lot of grief that my family was going through, a lot of hard times. And so it was difficult because the person who I once vented to, the person who was like my support system, was now turning into someone who I was on guard about. And I could see that I was being taken advantage of. And it's hard. And it's something I'm still coming to terms with because it's almost like your brain doesn't want to believe that you're being abused and manipulated. So you just refuse to acknowledge it. And you try to make up every excuse in your mind of like, oh no, they were just kidding. It was just a joke.
Yeah. Or maybe I didn't see it that way.
Or maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm just thinking of things in a different way. And it's hard to come to the realization that no, that man knew exactly what he was doing.
Oh, he sure did.
And
then, so how did you get to that realization where you put a stop to it and moved on? Did you confront him or?
No, there
or you
was
didn't
no
have to say anything?
confrontation just because I knew this person had power over me.
Right.
And I knew that their nature as a manipulator, it wasn't going to have any kind of, like, he was not going to admit, or he was not going to have that awareness to be able to apologize to me. I knew him at this point. I knew that self-awareness was just out the window. This was his game.
Yeah, why bother arguing about it?
Yeah, there was no point in arguing. And so I am very blessed to have other people that supported me, that helped me out of that situation.
So you had a good support system.
I did.
That's so important.
Yes, I did have a good support
Most
system.
don't have
thank
that.
God. Yeah.
So that's also probably what empowers you to be able to make those changes quickly.
Yeah, it's isolating because when it's someone that you work with and someone that you trust, and now you switch gears from like, okay, this is someone that I trusted so much, to now you are the enemy and I have to outsource my support.
Well, you're the enemy because you're not doing what they want you to do.
Right. Because you don't cave.
He was working hard for the end goal and it didn't happen. So
you don't fall for the games. And that is when the true colors come out. And so it's scary. It's a lot. And it really depletes at your self-worth because now it's like, wow, all of the kind moments that we did share together, was that only because you had an MO in your mind? Like you had an intention that wasn't pure that I didn't know about.
Yeah.
And
that's hard too.
It's hard to really come to terms with. Because the whole time you're pure and genuine and you think that this person really cares for you and that they have good intentions for you. And so to understand now that the person that I trust cannot be trusted is just, it's scary.
Yeah, so you feel violated.
You do.
Yeah, it takes time to heal from that. Break it down, understand it, right? Process it.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I felt like in my situation, if I were to come forward, would this hurt my career? Would this hurt my reputation? Is this person going to blackmail me?
Yeah, they may try to.
They absolutely will. You just don't know.
You don't know if they'll succeed at it. That's why it's scary.
Yeah.
And something you're working so hard for. Like, oh, I gave you all this, now I'm going to take it all away.
I think you think that you know someone until you
confront them,
until you confront them, until you're no longer on their good side.
The mask comes off then.
The mask comes off. And that's when that true face comes out. And it's so scary when you're standing up to that because they can come up to your house. People do crazy things. Like you just don't know. And so when you're standing up to someone in that kind of authority figure, it's terrifying because you don't know how far someone will go. And I remember thinking in my mind, if this person who is trying to abuse me has already gone to these lengths,
right?
How far will they go?
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of second guessing that I think women that are in that position go through, which is why it's so much easier to just stay quiet because you are putting yourself at risk.
Yeah, and a lot of people say, well, why'd you stay quiet? Why didn't you say something? Why did you
That's
stay
exactly
so long?
why. It's more of a
There's a
risk to
question-
use your voice.
Yeah.
It's more of a risk.
Well, it's also the grooming process that you are also confused of what's...
You don't know what the truth is. You don't know what reality is. You don't know if, oh, maybe this was just a one-time mistake and it's not.
And well, a lot of times they're holding something over your head too.
Yeah.
Like your agency.
I think people oftentimes as well are so afraid of labeling something. And that's helped me as well in my acknowledgement and just to take away the blinders of like denial of this is harassment. This is abuse. This is what manipulation is. This is what gaslighting is. Learning those terms and what they are so that you can recognize them. I think most people don't even know what gaslighting is. They don't know what that is. Like the abuse is like when you think of sexual abuse, when you think of sexual harassment, most people just gravitate towards, oh, like maybe rape.
Yes, usually they think it's just like a stranger, you're jogging and a stranger jumps on you.
Right. That's sexual assault. But it's not. I mean, it's part of it, but that's not. There's so many more layers to it. Yes.
In these situations.
Abusers especially are so afraid of being labeled as what they are. But if you manipulate someone, you're a manipulator. If you abuse someone, you're an abuser. And if you do so sexually, you have committed sexual assault. And that's what it is. And educating yourself on those topics as well has helped me because now I know when someone is behaving in a certain way, I'm able to see, okay, I see what this is. I'm aware and I can make my decision to turn in the other direction.
Well, of course
but when you don't know, it's so easy to make excuses for that behavior. When you don't know like right from wrong. When you
you also just look at the facts too.
Yeah.
If someone's 19 or 20 years old and the person's like 50 or 60, there's already a huge power dynamic right there. And usually that's very predatory, just from the start, working with someone who looks to work with young girls. You have to, present yourself in a really good professional way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they'll dance around the idea of it, They don't want to admit that it actually is abuse and manipulation. And so that's where they try to get you. It's like, it's an attack at your mental health. It's a mind game of just not being able to kind of stand in the truth of what is reality because you're faced with this, like the truth and then what this person is putting on, the facade that they're playing with you. And for me, that's how it was of just the person that I knew is no longer the person that I knew. And even though
you caught on to it.
You caught on to it.
And they don't like when you catch on to what's going on.
There definitely are red flags. And so that's where that guilt starts to get at you. And that's something that I went through as well of just feeling really shameful and feeling almost stupid of like,
for falling for it.
How did I fall for that? Like, how did I not see those red flags?
Not your fault.
Like, how was I not able to stand up for myself at that time? And it's a mix of things.
It's not your fault. You didn't know.
Yeah.
You don't know someone's intentions.
You don't. Yeah. You don't. But now with some years in, I'm fully able to say that the colors that someone shows you, that's who they are.
Yeah, and you have to be able to pick up on that.
You have to pick up on it.
Because they do show you those from the beginning.
From the beginning.
And you kind of just
from the beginning
ignore it a little bit just because you think, oh, no, these positive things are really who they are.
Yeah. The red flags that you ignore in the beginning are always going to lead to the reason that you end up leaving.
Oh, yeah. It was the same in relationships.
The same with
relationships. We're
relationships.
talking about professional relationships, so that's in relationships.
Yeah. The same way. The things that you ignore in the beginning or the things that you don't really address, they will continue to come back up until you place that boundary.
So where are you in your healing journey right now?
I am still in the process.
You are? Okay.
And it's something, any kind of traumatic situation, I think your initial instinct as a human being is to just smash it down. Like you don't want to You don't want to acknowledge that you had been abused. You just don't want to believe
Yeah,
it.
I know.
And so in my situation, I had just completely disassociated. I didn't want to really talk about it. I didn't want to backtrack and go through the motions of what I had been through. And I smashed it down for a very long time until I continued to be put in that same situation. So it was like a lesson
Right.
that I still needed to continue learning. And now, some years later, I have been able through therapy, having a
good.
strong support system,
Good.
and then just growing and maturing in myself and building the stronger boundaries that I didn't have before, which led me to be in those positions.
Oh, yeah.
You know, building the standards within myself of what
Right.
I will accept and what I will not accept, what is not allowed in my life.
Good.
And it takes a very long time to get there, especially when you're involved in this kind of industry where there's no guidebook
Right.
for
There
models.
isn't.
You live and learn. You have to fall in order to learn your lessons. And so it's been a journey. It has been. But now I do feel like I'm on the right track of my healing journey. And the first step for me was breaking out of the mentality of being a victim. I am no longer a victim.
Good.
Yeah, it happened to me. I was put in that position. I didn't know better at that time, but now I do. And now I can stand so strong in my belief that my boundaries and my standards are non-negotiable, and I don't have to feel bad anymore.
Yeah.
I don't have to feel bad because someone else wants to come in and violate me in every single way. I don't have to feel bad for standing up for myself.
Yeah.
And that there are better options. I think when you're involved in kind of dancing around with a manipulator, you think that they are end all be all.
Yeah, of course.
They just make you think.
I remember feeling that way.
Yeah. They make you think that if you don't agree with them, your career's over. And everything that you've worked so hard for is just going in the trash.
They hold that power over you.
It's a huge power dynamic. And in my situation, I knew that at that point, I would rather give up everything than to continue working with someone with that mentality, with a manipulator.
You're a strong woman. So you're willing to stand back from the modeling industry. Did it ever deter you at some point to say, you know what, I'm going to stop? I'm not going to pursue this career anymore?
Oh, definitely.
Or
There's so many times. So many times. I think probably once a month.
Oh, no. Just because of this person? Or
not just because of this specific person, but just because I think when I first started out, it was such a dream and almost like a fairy tale land of like the life of a model is just so beautiful and glamorous. And it is. There's so many aspects of it that are just shiny and perfect from the outside. And then when you really get in it, you see things for how they are.
Oh, yeah. It's a lot of hard work.
The life of a model is difficult, and people don't really realize it, of just how isolating it can be and how it really can chip away at your self-esteem, especially when you're working with toxic people or involved in these negative situations. It really changes you as a woman. And kind of overly having to expose yourself all the time as well is, it's difficult. And so not that I wanted to like quit and give things up, but after my situation, I definitely needed a break. I definitely needed time to just heal on my own.
Yeah.
And
I'm so glad you took that time.
Yeah, it's not something that's, it's not day to night. The healing journey, it's not linear. It's different for everyone. It can take you 1 year, 2 years, like 10 years to heal from a lifetime.
Yeah.
It always like lingers. It always stays with you when you go through something like that. And so,
but it does make you more aware.
It does.
When you're put in the predicament again, then you know.
It only makes you stronger.
I like that you have strong boundaries. That's where it starts.
That's where it starts. Yeah. And it's the foundation of every kind of relationship. Without boundaries, it leads to a self-abandonment. It leads to you just fully not even being aware of what's good for you, what's not. And that will only lead to more resentment. Like when you don't have boundaries,
mold you the way they want.
You lose yourself completely. You lose yourself completely.
So when you don't have boundaries, you lose yourself completely. It's powerful.
You lose yourself.
Yeah.
And so
then how do you have boundaries? Let's just talk about that real quick, just for people listening at home. Because they might be saying, oh, I want to have these boundaries. I need to have that because I'm in this situation. But how do they have boundaries?
Boundaries are, for me, it's standing up for yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
standing in your truth, being able to say, hey, I'm not okay with this. And if that person respects you, if they have any sliver of respect for you, they will make it aware.
Yeah, they'll say, okay.
Absolutely. If I say, hey, I am not okay with doing this on set, or I am not okay with the way that you talk to me.
That's a big one.
Based on how that person reacts to that, you'll be able to see their true colors.
And how much they respect you. Because if they keep talking to you a certain way after you ask not to, then you know.
Exactly. When someone doesn't respect your boundaries, that is a clear indication that you are only trying to operate in a way for you to take advantage of me. If you don't respect my boundaries, I know you don't have my best interest at heart. You want me to stay small. You want me to stay in a position where you can continue to have your way and manipulate and abuse me. And so when you set your boundaries, you're able to see what kind of relationship you will have in the future with that person. Because a boundary is not, it's not like this horrible thing. Boundaries are good.
Yeah.
And it should be the foundation for any relationship, business, romantically, with family,
especially
friends,
romantic.
in any way. If I set a boundary with you, that means that I care and that I'm trying. Now, once you get past that point, once it's like blatant abuse and manipulation, there's no point in setting boundaries because I already know who you are.
Well, predators don't like boundaries.
Of course.
The abuser doesn't want a boundary.
Right.
Although once you have the boundary, they'll move on to somebody else.
Yes, that's the first step in protecting yourself.
But you have those boundaries now.
You have the boundaries. It makes you stronger. It makes you wiser. And looking back, it's like, oh my God, 20-year-old me fell for that. But me now, forget it. Like I refuse to be in that situation again.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel so strongly with helping other models, because I was once you. I was once so young.
Well, I see you.
And naive.
I see you as me. I was 20 around that time too.
Yeah.
Isn't that pretty similar predicament? So
Absolutely.
I do understand that.
And so it's, for me, I've really learned the significance of just when you're silent, really what you are enabling is the exploitation.
Yes.
If you stay silent, you are allowing this behavior to continue.
Yeah.
But then on the other side, it's like, okay, if I speak up, will I be punished?
Yeah.
Will this hurt my reputation? Will this hurt
Will
my
I be
career?
shamed?
Will I be shamed? And it's also painful for yourself as well. Like coming out and being honest about your situation, standing up to the people that have been taking advantage of you and abusing you. It's painful. It's easier to stay quiet.
In some
it's
ways.
so much easier to just turn a blind eye and just brush things underneath the rug.
Yeah.
And just go about your business and focus on work. But
it'll manifest in different ways though.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's easier on the outside, but there's going to be some ramifications.
Absolutely.
You may not even know where it's coming from.
Yeah.
So it is also, that's why they say the truth sets you free. When
It
you
does.
do speak out, it is harder, but in the long run, you'll feel so much better about it. And you're helping others.
Absolutely.
Like you're very brave right now to help others on your journey.
Yeah.
As so many young women want to be models and enter this business and they have no clue how to handle these situations. And hopefully they never happen.
Right.
But a lot of times
it can. And I think every model that I speak to has more than 10 situations of where they've felt taken advantage of or they felt uncomfortable on set, either with a manager, a photographer, anyone. You know, it happens to so many of us.
Well, yeah, because models are traveling all around the world, working with all different types of people.
And oftentimes you're alone. It's like you don't have your family with you all the time to guide you. You don't have your mom and dad right there next to you every single time. And so it's an isolating career.
Right.
You know, one second you're in Miami, the next you're on a plane to LA or New York, you're by yourself. And so we are easy targets. We are the prey.
Yeah.
And acknowledging that has been difficult for me too, because I never understood it. It's like, why am I not seen as just a person? Why am I not seen as just a human being who was working?
Yeah, I know. But even if you were an attorney right now, you still...
Yeah, but
you still got to deal with it no matter what business. Right. But you're right. In the modeling and entertainment business, it's a lot more frequent.
It is. It's magnified. Absolutely.
So I'm just curious, like what would you tell someone listening at home who's maybe in a similar situation, a model, actress, dancer, singer, someone who's in the entertainment world who has a manager or agent, director that they're working with who's dealing with something like this?
I mean,
What's some advice You have
First
some
and
good advice over there.
foremost, yeah, if I could tell anyone, it's just don't be afraid to use your voice and don't be afraid to stand up for what's right.
In the moment.
And in the moment, because it's scary. And even me sitting right here, like I am still on the inside shaking and I'm terrified because this is life. This is my life. This is what happened to me. So it's important to move professionally and to, although your feelings are valid, when you are abused, when you're manipulated, when you've been exploited, you want to explode. Like it's such a violating feeling. And you want to rage.
Good.
It doesn't feel good. And so your feelings are valid.
Because a lot of time this person's more powerful. So they're getting everybody on their side.
Absolutely.
Making it seem like you're the one who did things.
Yeah.
Right.
You want to react. But from my experience, acknowledging and just knowing that the way that I move and the way that I conduct things is also a representation of who I am, and not allowing myself to get to that point, and it's just having the control over your emotions is really what I've learned. Is the best strategy to handle these things. And it could be an email, it could be a phone call, whatever it may be, to express yourself in a way where you're being heard and not just seen as, you know, crazy and ballistic. Although you should want to be, like, it's when you are violated, you'll want to explode. But and so it's difficult. It's difficult.
Some people
to
are
handle.
scared in the moment to do something and speak out to that person who, you know, the predator who's trying to take advantage of you in the moment. Sometimes, especially if you're alone, they're scared to speak out and maybe have the situation turn worse.
Absolutely. Yeah, it can happen. From what I've experienced, I think it's important to pick and choose your battles. There are some people that you can sit down with and actually have a conversation and you know that you're going to feel safe, that your feelings will be validated and that they'll hear you, they'll understand you. But in my case, I knew that I was way past that. I knew that what they were showing me, what this person was showing me, was who they were at their core. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't, you know, in one time little incident. This is their character. That's who they are. And when I knew that, I was able to make the decision for myself to choose better. Because I know that at this point, we just don't align. And it's not my job to try to change you. It's not my job to try to sit down and get you to understand, hey, you hurt my feelings.
Oh, gosh.
You manipulated me. You abused me. I think it's just, that is when you recognize and you see that it's abuse, blatant abuse that's right in front of you. That's when you run and you turn the other direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's not your place. You don't have to feel responsible for going in and trying to change this person or get them to understand that they hurt you. Oftentimes,
yeah, they're not going to listen.
And they know that they're hurting you. They know. They are fully aware that what they are doing is wrong.
In your situation, did you hear from other girls that this person was doing the same thing to them?
I had.
Oh, yeah.
I had, yeah.
Is that what also helps you realize, oh my gosh, this is a
it definitely
real situation that I'm in? Was it after hearing from other, or were you able to come to that realization on your own?
It was from my own experiences, really, where the turning point came. But hearing from other models, which I think that's why community in the modeling industry is so important. And for people to talk and to share their experiences and to feel like you're not alone in it. Because oftentimes it's not just you. If it's happening to you, it's happening to so many other people as well. And so,
that's scary when you realize that this person's doing that to other models.
It is, yeah. But it's at different levels as well. And that's what I realized.
Yeah, some are worse.
And in my case, this happened to me when I was at my weakest, lowest point.
Yeah.
When I was at my lowest point.
That's good that you can acknowledge that. Because same for me. I always felt like it happened when I was at my weakest time too.
Yeah. And that is the anatomy of a predator. They see that and they know.
Oh, totally.
They know.
Yeah. They know
and
this
when
is
you're
the
dealing
perfect
with
victim.
Exactly. And understanding that and educating yourself on these topics as well. I think as models, it's important to not only learn the fashion, creative, modeling, like all of that, you also have to learn business and you have to learn people.
Yeah, and there are good people in the modeling industry.
Absolutely.
We're not saying like everyone is like this, but just for you
learning
to
how to deal with people. I think the enemy of a manipulator, anyone who has this kind of intent, is an educated person. When I'm able to see your behavior and acknowledge that it's toxic, that is when I am like in my strongest. I'm in my strongest place when I'm able to see your toxic behavior and run in the other direction. And it takes a while to get to that point because sometimes you just don't know. And you don't know what to believe.
Right.
So,
yeah. I'm so happy you got out of that situation. You were strong. You have a good family support, empowered you to realize the red flags, what's going on, and get out of that situation. And now you have, in your career right now, you're super happy. You have great management. Everything's going great. Okay.
I'm very excited now after going through the worst of it, really, to have an amazing mother agency that has placed me internationally.
Yeah, I heard you're heading to Bali soon.
Yes, yeah, I'm very excited for that. So I went through the worst of it at first, and it's hard because looking back, I would like to protect younger me.
Yeah,
but how would I have known? And with this platform, that's all I really hope. And for me, that is what I will equivalent my success to in a model. Like
I like that.
Yeah, I think, of course,
that you're helping others. It's always about that.
Booking
Good for you.
Victoria's Secret, Sports Illustrated, all of that stuff. Of course, it's amazing.
Right.
But I think if I can use my experience to help shape and mold and strengthen a younger generation of models, I will just be so happy.
Yeah, that's why I'm here.
To know, to know that I was in that position, but the next generation doesn't have to be.
No, they don't.
It ends like with this generation is my hope of models feeling safe with their managers, with photographers, with everyone that they come in contact with, that, you know, the models that do truly want to work, that want to put themselves out there and grow within the industry can feel safe. They don't have to feel exploited, because I know what that's like, and it's painful, and it does make you just want to throw in the towel.
And I do see it getting better.
It has.
Yeah. When I was a model, there were agents and agency owners sending models to Jeffrey Epstein. Can you believe it? Right. But now, I mean, nowadays you can't really get away with that kind of stuff. And I have noticed a lot of people, agents, turning away from toxic managers and agents and things like that. And people they know are doing this kind of stuff.
There's more awareness.
Yeah, there's more
now.
awareness, and it's not as accepted. But we still have a long way to go.
We do.
Yeah.
We absolutely do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow, I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
I love this work that you're doing. Krystal, when you hear the powerful sentence, "from now on," how would you answer that sentence?
From now on, really what it is for me when I think of that statement is just, from now on, I don't have to be silent. I don't. And I don't have to silently absorb these toxic behaviors. I don't have to sit there and feel uncomfortable and laugh things off when like I don't feel
when you don't want to be sitting
when
there.
I don't want to be doing that. I don't have to silently continue to allow people to mistreat me just to keep the peace or to come off in the right way. From now on, I don't have to be silent. I can use my voice, and I can stand up for myself and not feel bad about it. I don't have to have any guilt attached to doing what's right and standing up for myself. I don't have to be afraid from now on.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, it just gave me goosebumps. This is exactly why I have this podcast. You just summed it right up right there. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh.
I wish I could hug you, Lisa.
Thank you, Krystal. Thanks for coming here.
Absolutely. I'm glad that we have this now. We have this space to be able to share our stories and our truth, and to really help younger girls. Because enough is enough. I think at one point, at what point do we decide that young models have just been through enough? So from now on, not silent anymore. And I can take my own power back.
There we go. Thank you so much for being here today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
It's been such a great conversation with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
This is From Now On. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Lisa Phillips. Special thanks to our guest, Krystal Orozco. Elizabeth Wyndham is our senior producer. Christopher Leon is the editor, and Jose Oriana is our studio producer. Our theme music is Many Worlds by Memory Theory. If you have any thoughts, questions, or stories about your own views on topics discussed on From Now On, email us at fromnowonpod@gmail.com. And please follow, rate, comment, and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. If today's conversation resonated with you and you are seeking more support in your own healing journey, if you or someone you know has been sexually assaulted, help is available. Call 800-656-HOPE. If you or someone you know is being trafficked, contact the National Human Trafficking Hotline. Text 233-733. That's Be Free. PAVE is a 501c3 nonprofit creating a world free from sexual violence and building communities to support survivors. To learn more, go to shatteringthesilence.org. Speak Out, Act, Reclaim, SOAR, is dedicated to providing a safe and empowering space for survivors of sex trafficking to reclaim their stories and stand up for themselves and each other. That's www.speakoutactreclaim.org.